Prepare yourself for a sprawling discussion on just about anything, where critical thinking meets pop culture in a collision of mind-bending proportions. Please secure all neurons and prepare for full frontal cortex. It's time for Incoherent Ramblings.
Okay, that was good.
Yeah, good enough. Let's start it off there.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another gas-filled episode of Incoherent Ramblings. This is Ramble 008, and we're on Skepticism today.
The biggest gas bags around.
Yeah.
Somehow I don't believe it.
Oh, look, let's do some introductions. I'm Joey Schammel. We're going to start with Booger this time, because he never gets to go first.
He's only been on once.
Oh.
Twice.
Yeah, you can throw me off. I didn't expect to have to be up here so quickly. Hello, everybody. This is Robert Booger Magallanes coming all the way from beautiful downtown Fayetteville, North Carolina. How are you doing?
Howdy. Who else we got here today? Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, that's me. I'm Paul Hottinger, and I am here.
Hey, it's Paul.
Hey, it's Paul.
Hey.
And there's Kale.
Hi, it's Cale Anderson once again.
And finally,
Darryl. And I'm sorry, Booger, I forgot you were on twice already. I'm just a harebrain.
we would like to thank Booger for joining us these last three episodes, because we know he's doing it from far away, and
he has to stay up late.
Yeah, and he has to stay up late. It's 3 hours in the future, so we do greatly appreciate that. Yeah, time travel.
I think what you gentlemen don't quite realize is you're actually doing me a favor, since it's been so long that before now, since we've been able to really socialize, it's my chance to be able to catch up with all of you. So although I say you're welcome, let me also say thank you for the opportunity of including me in this.
You're welcome.
You're
we'll
welcome.
start charging you next week.
Yes.
Okay.
Sounds good.
He's like a rabid dog. He has to be socialized.
It's the Talk to Booger hour.
All right, so tonight we're going to be doing skepticism, because many of us here are very skeptical people.
Skepticism likes it.
Yeah. And we figured it would be a good idea to let our audience out there understand a little bit about where we're coming from and how we feel about things. Because though we ramble incoherently, we do share a lot of very rational views on how we think the world works. So we're going to be discussing that tonight. We were originally going to watch the movie Communion, which had to do about aliens. But one of the members of Incoherent Ramblings, who hasn't had a chance to do podcasts, we're going to save that one for him, and we're going to do an aliens one in the future, because Communion's, man, if you want butt probes,
there's one.
Yes, dude.
that's the movie to go
Especially
to.
with those midget guys.
Oh, man, the little pig blue guys, yeah.
He even gets a little tongue action from him, I think.
Yeah,
so.
something. Well, I think he was smelling them. That was kind of weird. It was,
Yeah,
very strange movie, but had a lot to do with some of our past.
Christopher Walken, you know.
It was another walking. Walking on.
You know, after the butt probe, he wasn't walking very much.
Oh, man.
All right,
So be more like hobbled around.
Yeah, let's get started on skepticism. First of all, let's talk about what we see skepticism as, because we want to make sure we all are on the same page here. So who wants to start off? All right.
Everybody.
Okay, I'll start then. Fine.
Okay.
Go for it.
I think skepticism is a way to look at the world rationally, logically, and not necessarily through the illusional curtain of emotion or what you want to have happen.
I think the first implication you get from the word skepticism, and there's been a lot of talk in the skeptical community about it maybe not being the appropriate word, because there are very dogmatic, believing people that don't follow science necessarily that can also be called skeptics.
Yes, good point.
So skepticism might not be the best umbrella term, but I think that we can summarize it by saying it's critical thinking employed in your everyday life.
I think that's the better term.
Yeah, maybe we should call this critical thinking. Maybe we'll change the name of it before you guys hear this.
But then again, there's already a community of skeptics that...
Yeah.
Oh, so then we'll keep it. Never mind.
Right.
Wow.
You're Vaselining tonight.
I love Vaseline.
By the way, every time Joey vacillates, say beef. Yeah.
Kale, you're quite the rationalist. What's this called again?
Skepticism.
Skepticism. What does skepticism mean? Oh, no, not mean to you. What is skepticism?
Skepticism is basically what Darryl said. That was excellent. Critical thinking and logic. That's basically it.
Excuse me. That's what I said.
Yes. No, that's what Darryl said, critical thinking.
I said it first.
Yeah. We'll roll that back, and I'll believe it then.
Wait, what do we need to roll back here?
No, whether it was Joe...
Roll back, roll back, roll back my foreskin for me, for me.
You know,
you weren't really supposed to go there.
you weren't
sorry.
supposed to go that far.
Right.
I was
Not supposed to roll that far back.
Oh my god.
So, Paul,
But you know,
skepticism.
you make a good point with the critical thinking. You know, skepticism is asking questions. But if you listen to skeptics, or what maybe the media just deems as skeptics, it is a lot of not non-critical thinking. Because I think of the skeptics like for example, let's say like the 9/11 and stuff, and the government did and stuff.
Right.
Oh,
They
bring that in.
pinpoint on one aspect of the issue and blow that up and use that as their
No pun
basis.
intended.
Their basis of fact of why they're right.
Wow.
Yeah.
I really like that point, and there's a term for that. It's a lot of skeptics use it to debunk that kind of thing. It's anomaly hunting. You're basically sifting through huge masses of data because there were so many video clips, so much news coverage of
tracts.
things, eyewitness accounts, and what they really try to do is they pinpoint, oh, this reporter said implosion rather than collapse of the tower. This one video looks like a controlled demolition, but what they're really doing is they're looking for little anomalies without doing a real study of the entire scene. And then one of the aspects of anomaly hunting is cherry picking. You're just going to say, okay, this one angle of something looks suspicious, even though we have 4 other angles of the same event, we're just going to focus on the one that looks suspicious.
There's so.
I think that's what most people do, is that they look at things and they only see what they want to see.
Huge tracts of data where
Yes.
they're just cherry picking in the
Massive.
huge tracts of data.
Well, I was
Well, hold on. We want to go to Booger because we haven't answered. Booger, skepticism to you. Go.
Skepticism, I anytime I hear that word or think of the concept, I tend to get a little more grandiose with it and more sum it up with the word doubt. Anytime anybody has any sort of skepticism about any topic, it begins with the origin of doubting something. Not just, there's critical thinking, but critical thinking tends to be a product of doubt. So without doubt, anybody just takes whatever they see for granted and at face value. Once doubt is introduced, that's when you start getting in critical thinking and skepticism to follow along.
Yeah, Booger is not only our token Mexican, he's probably more of a believer in other things than many of us are here. So I'm really glad he was able to join us today. Thank you.
Join the dark side.
Who are we brought by?
Yes, and I wanted to ask Omega Supreme, what do you think about skepticism? Skepticism, good. Like it. Very much. Omega Supreme, from Fall of Cybertron, is our...
Broken in half.
Wow.
Oh, hell, Omega Surprise!
Voltron.
Is our
He
what do we
broke
call
Volt- he broke Omega Supreme
sponsor
in
for
half.
today? So Omega
Yes.
Supreme, yay, Omega Supreme.
Robotic sponsor.
We need to do the radio play version of this because we need to describe what you're actually doing.
Oh, okay. So Omega Supreme, the toy I
ripped on a
have,
new one.
when you can pull him apart, and he looks like he was cut in half by Voltron's blazing sword, not his penis.
Oh my god.
Hey, that was a line, right? Voltron went up to the blazing sword is my penis.
I will farm blazing sword.
Well, that's why he
Blazing
always
sword, I
whips
mean
it out
penis.
at the end.
Yeah, that's what
That's
I
what I'm
mean.
doing. Okay,
fluffer.
so
Oh
skepticism.
boy.
All right, so now let's talk about what skepticism means to us. So I have a quick story. For me, I was not much of a skeptic. I was not a very critical thinker when I was younger because I so wanted things to happen. I wanted... Paul and I grew up on the Narnia books, and we wanted so badly for a portal to open where we could go into great
Dude, that
Narnia-
Ouija board told us exactly where
The
to go. and it
Ouija
never
board with the
happened.
guy's name Al. Oh my God, he
Yeah.
told us what was going to happen.
So there's something we can talk about later, the idiomotor effect
Yeah.
of Ouija boards.
And the fact is because I wanted to believe things so bad, like especially aliens, I got into the whole alien thing. I believed people were being abducted. I was sure of it, so sure that after I read the book Communion, which is about alien abductions. I slept with my lights on for like 3 years because I was so freaked out about it.
Edison thanks you to this day.
Oh, I'm sure he does. So, but over time, I've become a much more rational thinker. And though I still love amazing things happening, I understand that there's something behind it. There's a reason why things happen, and often things aren't happening where people see them happening, and they just use their brain to make patterns and create stories, which is, you know, what we do anyway. We talked about that in our first round.
We're always looking for reasons why things happen. And in the Dark Ages, when people had, come on, Darryl, when you get on you're sleeping, sleep paralysis. Thank you. Right. And that they wanted to interpret, what is this? What's happening to me? And of course, to them, it became demons. Demons sitting on your chest, keeping you from getting up.
And it was a demon-haunted world, was it not?
Yes, it was. Carl Sagan, there you go. And but nowadays, of course, it's aliens. Now it's aliens sitting on our chests and anal probing us, you know?
Well, there seems to be a definite cultural component of what you're talking about, because, yeah, back when the current thoughts about spirituality were about angels and demons and whatnot, then you would, or even a succubus in some cultures,
right? You
would have, you know, some entity on you, and then the culture with science fiction and everything in the 20th century went into where those things kind of morphed into. Some people still experience demons,
right,
in their
but
mind,
they tend to be more religious.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas people who aren't tend to have more alien abduction experiences.
Right. And that's kind of like a cultural influence on the perception of what's happening.
Very true.
So, Darryl, any personal stories or how you feel about being skeptical? Because I know you've had a lot of journeys into looking into religion, and then, you know...
Yeah, I also wanted to just bring it back to your story for a little while, too, because... I think your mom was awfully skeptical. And
yes, she was.
I look at her as a figure that I can look up to and think about. You know, she really had a lot to say about things, even at times when I wasn't ready to listen to it.
Yeah, she was very straightforward, and she said things the way that she thought they should be said. My dad grew up Catholic, and I was kind of indoctrinated into the Catholic cult. I mean, religion, but not tremendously. And the thing is, mostly because my mom was such a strong personality.
Did a priest touch you?
I don't think so, but, you know.
Well, that's good.
Well, I can sense the hate mail already. Yeah. Wow.
Don't.
I'm just,
our email, that's Joey at IamRamblingDog.com.
You know,
so anything about Catholicism and foreskins, come to me.
All righty then.
Ruffle foreskin.
Just,
foreskin.
Go ahead, Darryl. I'm sorry.
So that we don't, you know, get all sorts of hate mail. I do want to say that I don't think that organized religion is necessarily a cult. You know, my personal point of view.
Who's seen Life of Pi?
I have not.
I haven't.
I want
Okay.
to see that.
Well, then I won't say anything too much about it because I think it's better if you watch it to get this feeling. But the view of religion in that I think is an excellent view.
Yeah.
And the way they bring it across is exactly.
Well, I think one way I could illustrate it is that there are certain aspects that cults and organized religion have in common, but you can't use the blanket term.
No, you can't. Both. You can't. No.
Well, basically, organized religion is a cult that has gotten to the point where it's accepted. That's basically what happens, because originally the Christians started off as a small little cult. They grew big and they became an organized religion. The Mormons, they started out as a little cult and I think we can get accepted, and even had a guy run for president. You know,
we can get hung up on maybe the definitions of.
Well, I think
religion.
I think a good point is that if it becomes accepted, it obviously doesn't have anything that's too insane or crazy if it's accepted in the general populace. But I agree. I mean, I went to a Catholic mass. I went to a Catholic mass. You know, after our years of I hadn't been to many when I was a kid, but I'd been to enough. And I was just like, this is like a cult. I mean, it's like stand up, sit down, say these words, do this movement, come up here, let me put this in your mouth, drink this, now go back.
But if that's your definition of a cult, then the U.S. Army is a cult also.
Booger?
Yes.
So is the U.S. Army a cult?
Are they watching you right now?
Let me ask you guys this question.
the Marines are.
How do you define a cult?
Yeah, that's a
that's
real
the
good
problem.
question.
Okay,
yes.
I think that one of the big aspects of a cult is that they want you to separate yourself.
They
from,
isolate you from your family and friends.
Yeah,
Right. So I think most churches are inclusive of your immediate family and everything. They usually don't want to sequester you from
but
all of your relations.
they do it in, they don't sequester you physically, they sequester you, I think, in a mental belief sort of way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they want you to be looking at the way they see the world,
right?
the way they understand things, and they don't want you believing other things that don't fit in with their view of how things work.
But again, is there actually something?
I guess could you also say that a religion or a cult, for that matter at all, tries to proclaim a certain truth?
Yes.
Okay, then in that case, and yeah, I guess under that definition, the army does definitely count as a cult.
I would agree with that.
Don't drink the Kool-Aid.
I think we're just using the definition a little broadly.
It's too late. I drank it a long time ago.
You know what? I think Darryl's right. We're using cult as kind of a pop culture definition of it, which is like people who follow other people and do what they say, which is lots of things. I mean, you do that in your business.
Can you find that doesn't have a truth or bylaws or whatever? There's going to be some
Jump
sort
in
of
there,
that.
Paul.
Go ahead, Paul.
I just want to read what the dictionary, I looked it up here. It says a group or sect bound together by veneration of the same thing, person, ideal, etc.
Oh, so you have a Star Wars cult going on.
Exactly.
Well, if you think about it, we're a cult
donut
under
cult.
that definition.
That's it.
Yeah.
Incoherent Ramblings is a cult.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I think cult has
Nice.
a negative connotation.
So everyone, join us.
I know.
On our Google Plus cult.
The comment is coming.
Drink the Kool-Aid.
So I guess we'll go into religion at this point because this is a good time to do it. And so, like I said, I was kind of brought up Catholic, but not very practicing because of my mom. And so I went through my first communion, didn't get to confirmation. But from the beginning, I always just had this bad feeling about religion. And by the time I was, getting to about 8 and 9 or so, it was like, I didn't like it at all. I just, anything with God, Jesus, religion, it had such a negative impact on me. I didn't like it. I didn't want to have anything to do with it for a long time.
I just want to mention we kind of stalled out when we were going through our individual...
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Right. So, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So we were going to go to religion, but let's stop there because I just went to Darryl next.
Right.
So, Darryl, why don't you go last?
It was my fault because I diverted it back to...
Right.
talking
So
about
why
my
don't we
mom,
go
so-
last with you, Darryl, because then we can move into religion from that. So,
Okay.
who wants to go?
Yeah, that would be good.
I'll go because I just remembered that you were talking about myths and that type of thing and how you believed everything.
Wanted
to believe everything. One of the things that really helped me was my father used to read me Andersen's fairy tales, of course, and Grimm's fairy tales. But that's what he would read to me, the stories before I go to bed at night. And the way he did it, explained, is that these were fun things to think about, but that they were not real. And it made it okay for me to love all this kind of stuff and all the stories, the Bible stories, and also the fairy tales. And I kind of threw them all in there together. And it was okay to like them and to think that they were fun and cool, but you didn't necessarily have to believe them. Now, that's not what he was intending, but that's what happened.
Because, Cale, you, of course, your background is you were brought up Mormon.
Oh, very strict
Very
Mormon,
strict
yeah.
Mormon. And now
I even went on a mission.
Yeah, you are very much the opposite.
Yeah. Move forward.
Oh, sorry.
You're far away from the mic.
Cale, you are Mormon.
No, I'm not.
We need echo on that. Punch up some echo.
So I was moving away from the mic.
Well,
all right,
actually,
Paul,
it's official, too, because
that's right.
I wrote a letter and got myself released from the church. So I'm
Unmormoned.
Officially un-Mormon.
You are officially unmormon.
And when you brought up, if something becomes
Mormon Gola.
mainstream, if a religion becomes mainstream popularized,
Yeah.
I'd say that. I mean, you would probably agree with me that many of the Mormon beliefs are pretty out there.
No, they aren't. They are.
And also Scientology.
Dum,
Not that
dum,
that's
dum, dum,
as
dum.
recognized as the rest, but out of most major religions, that's probably the most cult.
Yeah, the best way to learn about Mormonism is to watch South Park.
Watch the South Park Mormon
That's
episode.
it. Uh-huh.
Because they
Awesome.
basically tell you what they believe, and
Right.
that's the truth.
And
Mormon
Scientology,
Jesus.
too. Paul, what about you?
My mind started wandering. The only skepticism thing I think of now is when Joey and I went to computer swap meet, and we almost signed up for Scientology.
Oh my god! Oh,
wow.
Oh my god! I forgot about that. Yeah.
So we went there. It was at the Pomona, LA County Fair,
Yeah.
or whatever. And
Wow.
this guy, they were selling the Dianetics book, and we're like, dude, that's the Dianetics
That's
book.
the TV commercial
that we
with the
see during
volcano,
day." And I'm like,
and it goes-
awesome. I still remember the guy with his like beard and braces and stuff. He's like, if you're gonna read anything, just read this first paragraph, and it talks about how when reading, when you get to a word you don't understand, if you don't go and look up the definition or something, or to understand it, whatever you read after that you won't really comprehend and stuff. So that's all I remember. And then Joey bought the book.
And then I bought the book and put my name on the mailing list. They were on me for like 10 years after that. Oh my god! And then I think it had something to do with them. I went over and bought a Pentium 75 computer, 75 hertz.
Oh, that was
For
megahertz.
megahertz, for $3,000. Woo!
Wow.
My first credit card purchase.
I remember that Doom ran really smoothly on
Yeah,
that.
it was very nice.
All right, Booger,
I had a 60 megahertz.
give us some skepticism.
66 at the time.
How's
66.
skepticism in your life?
With the turbo button.
It's kind of ironic that you mentioned that just before you called me to get set up on this. I found this old abandonware site, and they're actually letting you download Doom and Doom 2 for free.
And run it on DOSBox.
But
it's awesome.
yeah. I have. Anyway, that's not what you asked me about. Skepticism. Okay, I thought we already covered skepticism for
Well,
me.
no,
What
your
was-
personal connection. How do you feel about skepticism? I mean,
Or
what does it mean to you?
Okay. Skepticism, I find skepticism can be, it's a lot like fire. It can be very healthy and helpful, but if you use it too much, it can burn your ass. As a matter of fact, anytime I think about skepticism, I think
Red
about
Hot.
I'm sorry, what?
It's like Frank's Red Hot.
You know, Frank's Red Hot doesn't burn your ass. It's got good flavor.
Exactly.
Tabasco.
Tabasco?
Tabasco.
That burns my ass.
Okay.
All right.
Tapatio.
Anyway,
As long as it
I'm
doesn't
okay with
chap
that.
your ass, then you're fine.
I'm sorry,
think of the
Booger.
old-
Everybody go on that. Booger, go.
I think of the old saying about how a mind works like a parachute. It best works when open, but there's always the addendum. Make sure that you don't keep your head open so much that your brain falls out.
That sounds so
You
familiar.
want to be able to... Yeah, it's because it was all over our damn high school walls in every damn class we had. But
But it sounds
the
more
thing
familiar
was-
recently. I'm sorry, go ahead, what?
that's right. You're a teacher, you moron.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about one of our... We talked about that at Ramble. You weren't in...
Joey
Oh,
attributed it to me for some reason.
I mean, you're the one who told me that. Maybe it
Oh,
was
maybe
overall...
that was the first one.
Maybe it wasn't him. Maybe it was on our high school wall. Anyway, go ahead.
This is the microphone
Anyway,
over here.
yes. So
That's a
matter of
microphone.
fact, you guys probably remember back when I left California and went on to college. When I met my wife Anissa, I was not really what you would normally call a Christian. I would actually tell people I belong to the Church of Me. I took Christianity, my understanding of it, and took my own interpretation upon it. I doubted
Like everybody
everything
else.
I was taught. I was going to a Catholic college that just pissed me off because, like you said, they expected me to think this way, eat this way, wipe my ass this way, everything a certain way, that went everything against what I thought I needed to be as an individual. Then came the concept of, like I was asking earlier about truth. Is there such a thing as an actual solid truth? I sat in my dorm room forever contemplating, is there such a thing as truth? Is truth relative? And once I was able to establish there actually is such a thing as the concept, the
Objective
philosophy of truth. There are such things that, no matter what, are absolute true. From there, I was able to gain a healthy respect and boundary of where skepticism should and should not be, at least in my own opinion. So, a long version of the answer I wanted to give is that, skepticism is appropriate at times. We just have to make sure that we don't end up using it too much and just doubt everything that's out there and watch everything that's actually out there bite us in the ass because we doubted it too much.
You know, it's interesting how your view of skepticism is doubt. I think for me, until you said it, I would never have looked at skepticism and doubt because that's coming from a different direction, like closer to the microphone. It's more like it's for me. It's more like rationality or what strangely truth. I mean, it's just it's more critical thinking, rational thinking. I wouldn't have thought of it as doubt, but if you're coming from a different perspective, then I could see how you would see skepticism as doubt.
Yeah, and I think we're at an age to where it's easier to get skepticism out there. I mean, with the internet, Facebook. I mean, how many times do you get an email of a story of grandma?
If I get 1,000 likes, Bill Gates will give me a free iPhone.
A story about a soldier doing this, or a picture of a shark jumping onto a boat or something. And what's the first thing you think? Fake.
Right.
Well,
so you got to go to Snopes and you
but not
sniff it out and stuff. So, but it's easy
legends.
for skeptics to get their information out there, and so it's not necessarily the truth that people want. It's just being right.
Facebook and the internet has really shown us, though, that a lot of people are very, what's the word, unskeptical? Gullible? Not skeptical, not critical thinking, because I have a separate Facebook account that I will play games on. So I have friends that, just people all over the world I don't know anything about except they play the game I play. And, oh my God, some of them are just, if they put my name on Facebook, they're going to... my privacy will be gone and they'll know everything I do, It's just this, and they believe this stuff, and it's so obviously not true. They don't even second guess it. They're just like, I'm turning this off.
I think this is a Mark Twain quote. I could be wrong, but it's the truth lies can circumnavigate the globe before the truth even puts its shoes on.
Yeah, that's true.
That sounds like him.
Or it might have been Churchill, perhaps. It was one of the two.
Well,
Yeah.
how many times do our news our news reports, journalism is, instead of saying their source, everything is closest, sources close to the situation say.
Yeah.
So how are you supposed to believe that what they're saying is true? I'm skeptic on almost all newscasts and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, actually, if you think about it, most often anymore, a lot of mainstream news outlets will start producing information before they even bother to try to verify it. Like, take that one school shoot. I'm sorry, I can't remember where it was. The Connecticut school shooting, where there are a bunch of reports about who the shooter was, what they were shooting with, who was dead, who was alive, this, that, and other. And nobody was verifying crap until like a day or two later. Oops, sorry. And nobody was even holding them to task if they got it wrong in the first place.
It didn't matter. To them, it was all about link bait. It was all about advertisement. It's getting the information out there first and then fixing it later. If you get the information out there first, you get the history of your sites, you get to everybody gets to your news station or whatever, and that's where you sell advertisement.
A 24-hour news cycle to fill. You have to, basically what winds up when there's a big media circus going on is you have a bunch of people conjecturing about what happened. Did it happen like this? Maybe it happened like that. Maybe this happened. And all they're doing is they're sitting around having a powwow like we would do in our podcast, only, we're not propping ourselves up as journalists and saying you're going to get the absolute truth from us. We're
not at all.
You're going to get a bunch of opinions out
but
it.
the thing is, I think there's tons of editorial snuck into the journalistic perspective all the time without actually calling it editorial.
These
that's
days,
what people want.
In the
it
past,
seems like they want to know when something like at Newtown or anything like when the guy was killing the cops or whatever.
that one.
Dorner.
Right.
It's people want to know what's going on now. What happened? Did they get him? They want the information. So it's kind of like it's on us too, us as a society, who are sitting at our computers, clicking through the articles, trying to get any piece of information to talk to each other.
Well, how many of us during big events have flipped on the news and then they're just reading Twitter feeds?
Yep.
Like, okay, I can't go to Twitter myself.
And
Find that all out. All right, Joe.
Hey, dude, that was me. No, that's not me.
You unplugged me.
That was everybody.
Oh my God, I cannot.
What was going on there?
All right,
Joey's going.
We just had an emergency in the. That's not really.
That was good times.
It was all just so I could make Booger laugh.
So that was 5 seconds of silence. I'm very skeptical that something happened during that 5 seconds, and Booger does not know what could have happened during that 5 seconds.
All these chords, my man.
I tripped over everything.
Okay.
Oh my God.
That's something I used to do back when we were in Dragonflix. Now it's your turn.
All right, so why don't we move on
Well,
to...
wait.
Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
We're going to go to religion after mine.
Yeah, so, Booger, Darryl, go.
Okay. So, I grew up as being fairly critical thinking, but I know that there were some things, like I believed my parents a lot more than I probably should have. I just decided that their word was gospel.
As most people do.
Yeah.
They better. Logan better listen to me.
But aside from that, I was usually, fairly much like my mom didn't believe in God, and I usually kind of followed suit in that. My dad usually kept quiet about it, and he didn't ever go to church, so I don't think he really believed either. But I do have Catholics on my dad's side of the family and whatnot, so they were a little bit of an influence on me. And when I got older in high school, I followed a friend to Bible study, thinking, well, I'd like to just hang out a little longer. But then I met some people there that seemed pretty cool, and so I started going to Bible study as kind of like a social thing. Then eventually I started believing, and I became a Lutheran. Late part of high school. So I was Lutheran probably up until about 3 years ago. And I basically was getting more and more skeptical, but I thought I would still hold on to my religion at the same time. But when I realized that I was holding on to a sacred cow that I wasn't analyzing with the same depth I was analyzing the rest of the world, I thought, it's time that I take a hard look at that and analyze if it's really the truth. But I think that as far
Hey, everybody, wait. Booger's going to go tinkle.
Oh, he's...
We're talking about him. Bye, Booger. See you later. Have fun.
All right.
He gave us a little note.
It's too bad we can't make him wear the cones of shame.
Well, he must be gone now, so he can't hear us, but he's going to know later.
Yeah.
So let's all talk about Booger.
Yeah.
Remember that sacred cow you were talking about? I bet it was Booger.
Booger used to eat a cold cut wait, that's not like juicy, but
Well, cold cut combo should be juicy.
Hey, he and his friend left a ketchup stain on the AM PM that lasted years.
Mm-hmm.
Years, I tell you.
Yes. And wait, I saw something. Was that... Is he back already? He flicked us off. I don't know.
Okay.
Yes! He's back.
I thought this trash talking would go a little better myself.
Yeah, we're never...
We don't have any... We don't
You
have
need to
dirt
be a
on-
little more prepared.
Yeah, I know.
Booger,
We gotta have like a list of what to...
Right, what to say when they're gone.
Yeah, I think he's still gone. Okay, we can still try. Booger is... He had a friend named Amelia. Oh,
Yeah, okay.
All right.
All right, yes. By the way, I could hear you guys. I turned the microphone off, but kept the speakers on.
Excellent.
good for you.
You went on the walk of shame.
One thing I will say about Booger,
Yep.
now that he's back, he would do 100 times better job trashing us.
Yeah, I know.
Very much.
We're weak.
Yeah.
Okay, Darryl, so, you were
Sorry,
saying...
sure.
Okay, I was going to
Sacred cow.
So 3 years sacred
Right.
cow.
Not a real cow. Metaphor. Got it. Go.
Right. And my view on skepticism, or rather, I guess religion, would be that skepticism not only is critical thinking, but it's also letting go of dogma. You basically, when you're in a religion, you have certain things that you're just not supposed to question, and I think that comes out of fear, because things that are true can withstand questioning. And things that aren't true, why are you so afraid to question them when you should bend yourself more toward the truth? Ideally.
I agree with that. I agree with that 100%.
So, so the thing is, I think there's a little bit of, at least in the Lutheran church I went to, there was some token admittance that you should question things, but I think what they really meant was question it a little bit, go home and ask yourself questions, then come back and talk to your pastor and have them set you straight. So you're still going to be a dyed-in-the-wool Lutheran at the end of the day. So I think that I just learned to question things more. I wanted to get closer to the truth. Joey's mentioned before, I think one time on one of our episodes, that I was like a conservative Republican. And during the time I was leaving my religion, I became much more libertarian before that. Mm-hmm. And now I'm actually pretty much liberal now, because I've changed my ideas.
Wow.
Because I've reanalyzed all the stuff, and I've realized
weird.
that most of the conservative leanings were basically due to my parents, and I didn't question it thoroughly. So
You damn tree-hugging hippie.
Yeah. Well, you make a good point with religion is the same with politics. I mean, if you're a senator, Congress, you're in that. There's only so many things you could probably question without losing your job. So you have fear to follow a certain path, so that way you keep your job.
And as we've been learning a lot about the mind from Ray Kurzweil, we learned that also your mind wants to kind of stay with what it knows. So you automatically convince yourself with what you hear more. It makes what you know more, what you hear more, what you believe more makes a more solid pathway in your brain. And it's harder to move away from that.
And it's hard to think of certain things in a scientific aspect, like, do I love somebody or not? But then again, it should not be one of those things that you refuse to question, because if you really do love them, why would you be afraid to ask the question?
I think the great quote for that is Captain Disillusion. It says, "Love with your heart, use your head for everything else."
Awesome. Captain Disillusion, guys, look him up. Totally awesome.
YouTube.
Okay, so religion. Let's stay on that a little bit, because I think religion is probably the most believed of all the irrational, although it's not always irrational, but irrational ideas that are around the world. There doesn't have to be any proof. There doesn't have to be any science behind religion, because the whole idea of religion is faith. And it kind of...
Which is kind of a strange...
It is very strange if you look at it from the outside.
Right. When you look at it from the outside, it's like having faith in stuff is not a good thing. You should go with what you have proof of first. And then you can have faith in the results of what you find.
So you're talking about the scientific method?
Yes, exactly.
But then again, I think you need to have faith in certain aspects of your life. You know, like faith
yeah,
that you're
but
on a good
based
path
on
and things like that. But
critical
once again,
thinking
think
first.
about
thinking,
it. Why? Don't be afraid to question it.
Right,
in
right.
Other words, yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's like a lot of
death.
religions will
You don't
say
wanna
that
do
those
that.
are the devil's tools. Like, oh, that's just the devil causing you to
Yeah.
question things. But I don't think we should be afraid of our own logical reasoning abilities.
And that's important. We have logical reasoning abilities. I mean, we are logical creatures.
And if there is a God, it was a gift from God, right?
Exactly.
Would I respect a God that punished me for using the faculties God himself gave me?
Right.
That seems very circular,
there's
weird
a lot
logic, and I don't think that I could respect a God that's wrathful about people behaving the way that he made them to behave.
Yeah.
Take like the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. You know, the people acted in sin and whatnot. Maybe they were under the influence of other forces, but if God's perfect, God created his children with certain faults, and then he goes and destroys them because they fouled up.
I was going to say, but free
So-
will is always what the religious people will say is that's the whole, that's the whole crux. He said he gave them free will,
Right.
therefore, because he gave them free will, they can choose to do the good God things, or they can choose to do the bad devil things. And if they choose to do the bad devil things, sucks to be them.
And is it even a paradox that a perfect God, omniscient God, could make something imperfect?
Oh, Booger's got this one.
I'm going to disagree with that a bit. At least I'm going to speak from the Christian aspect of that. There seems to be a widespread disillusion that in order to be Christian or to be good per se, you have to do good things, and therefore if you do good things, you get to go to heaven. At least that's what it sounded like you were describing, and it's actually not quite that way. Like, again, from the Christian perspective, it's actually, in the Christian perspective, if you do not earn your way into God's good graces, you do not earn your way into heaven. You do not do good things, therefore God says, okay, good, you earn your way in. That's not the way it works. In the appropriate Christian paradigm, it's supposed to be where when you're given grace from God, hey, I screwed up, God, I'm so sorry, please forgive me. God says, you know what? I forgive you. You are so grateful, you want to, desire to, and therefore do good things to show appreciation for the forgiveness you were given. So, and the free will is not necessarily, like you said, do good things, hey, great, do bad things, all sucks to be you. It's more along the lines of God said, hey, if I want my creations to truly show respect and love to me, I have to make it where I don't hold a gun to their head. I have to make it where it's their choice. If there are negative consequences, if they choose on something else, true. However, I'm not going to force them to love me because that's not love. Does that make sense?
Well, the Lutherans were really big on that, so I can relate to that aspect of it. grace was a huge aspect of Lutheranism. And the thing is, it's you
Glug 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 glug.
glug glug glug. Oh, that's because he's drinking.
He's drinking. He's drinking on the podcast.
I lost my train of thought a little bit there.
Lutheran
I'm sorry.
grace.
Right.
Go.
Okay. So yeah, the idea was if you love Jesus and Jesus was in your heart, you're going to go to heaven. It's not like you could be, theoretically a mass murderer, but as long as you still love Jesus, you would go to heaven.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you don't believe in Jesus, you could be like Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
And love everybody,
Wow.
but you don't love Jesus in your heart. You're going to go to hell.
That's kind of that's how I thought most Christian religions were, which is it's all about accepting Jesus.
about accepting,
if you
right.
accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, you'll go to heaven, even if you're an asshole. Doesn't matter.
Well, okay. There. It's not quite that cut and dry. Mostly true, but you also have to remember. I apologize. I don't remember where in the Bible it is, Darryl. Maybe your memory is better than mine, but it does say the wages of sin is death. Mm-hmm. And where grace comes in is where you say, God, I screwed up. I sinned. Yes, I killed a bunch of people. Hitler can even come forth. Hitler can say, hey, God, I really screwed up back there. I just gassed a whole bunch of your children. I'm sorry. And as long as he's truly sorry in his heart, God says, okay, yeah, you screwed up. But because you believed in me and truly asked me for forgiveness, I'll grant it to you.
Well, you know
that's where what you said is correct. However, just because if you hold Jesus in your heart is one thing, if you can still hold Jesus in your heart and sin, and you're not going to go to heaven. You hold Jesus in your heart, and you have to be without sin. You have to be forgiven. Right. Then there you go. You're going into heaven.
It just kind of depends which religious sect you're going with there.
I think you're right. I think you're right about that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but here's the thing: it can also be dangerous because in Catholicism, you can basically do whatever the hell you want. And then you go to communion and you say, I'm sorry I did this, and you're fine.
Right, we didn't have communion this week.
Confession.
Oh, sorry, I forgot.
Okay, no, here. Yeah, no, here. Actually, what you're describing...
Oh, confession, not
I read
communion.
this once when I was in Oklahoma.
Such a bad Catholic.
It's great. This one comedian said that as a child, I used to pray a day and night for God to give me a bicycle. Then I soon learned in his ultimate wisdom, God did not work that way, so I stole a bike and asked for forgiveness.
Exactly. And that's actually people who truly believe in Catholicism, they will do really bad things. I mean, I work in LA, and a lot of the Latinos there are gang members, and they are very Catholic. And the thing is, they don't...
I know, that baffles me.
Yeah, but it's not... It makes perfect sense, because you can do horrible things in being a Catholic, realizing, well, this Sunday I'm going to church, I'm going to confess, and I will still go to heaven.
At least the Lutheran perspective I got from the church I was in was that it was almost like a self-fulfilling thing. If you believed in God's grace and you sought forgiveness, it would limit the depth of the sinning you would do. And then there's also the idea that all sins are equal. Murder, telling a white lie to someone, they're all the same. But the thing is that God loves you back if you accept and love God. That was kind of like their idea.
Hey, Darryl, I wanna hit on something interesting. One of the reasons that you became a Lutheran, I remember, was because you went to a couple of events where you saw some phenomena which made you think religiously. Now, because stuff happened that was hard to explain.
Right.
Could you kind of go into that and how you see it now?
Okay, yeah. One of the things that we did, at the Bible study, we occasionally did some things besides just the typical study. One time we did this exercise where there was one of the girls in the Bible study who was having some issues at the time. And we were just going to close our eyes and lay hands on her and pray around her. And then the pastor encouraged us that if you see anything as you're praying over her, share it with the rest of the group and we'll just go around in a circle. And I was fairly new to the fold then. So we were praying over her, and it was interesting because I did have a little bit of a waking dream, or at least this is my memory of it. And I saw her face. It was kind of like moonlit, and then it seemed like raindrops hitting like a sheet of water in front of her, and her face started rippling away. Then I saw her on a beach with a full moon hung low and some palm trees and the waves lapping the shore. So I saw all those things. I'm like, that's kind of weird, but interesting that I had all these, visions as I was praying over her. So I was fourth in the group to be called upon to share what I saw. And so they called on the first person. They said that they saw her face looked like it was moonlit. I'm like, that's odd. Then the second person said that they saw raindrops, like rain hitting water right in front of them. And I thought, okay, that's the second thing I saw. And at this point, I'm about bursting because I want to tell everyone. And the third person shared their thing. And they said they saw her on the beach at night. And I'm like gosh, what the heck, man? How could I have these things? And it really convinced me at the time that there was some sort of interconnection. Like we had a group consciousness moment at that time.
And you've got me believing, because I remember how skeptical you were. Right. And when you said that, I totally believed that that's what happened. I was like, oh my God, something happened.
Right. And it's, I still have that memory, and that's the way I can play it through to myself over and over again. But I don't know if that memory was backfilled somehow, or if I was just being susceptible to what the other people were saying, and it made me remember it as if it had happened beforehand. But it's a very strange thing to talk about, because to me it's something that really happened, but I still sit back and want to question, is that really how it went? Am I having people aren't perfect, and when I say that, I have to be inclusive of myself. No one's perfect, no one's memory is perfect, and I might have backfilled that to make it a better story. And in my retellings of it, I made it better and better, even though there were maybe some coincidences there.
Yeah, and as I told you guys, 2 days ago I got in my first real accident, and I don't remember it happening, and I was there. Right. I remember this crash, but I don't remember the moment before it.
And then if you ever remember it, you're going to be skeptical.
Exactly. I've already been thinking about that.
But then again, you should be skeptical of the things you do remember. Too,
I know.
But I have a similar story to that one also, because in 8th grade I got a concussion flying off my bike, and I basically, my memory of the event was, I said, hey, Mom, I'm going to go bike riding. I had just finished my homework. I threw it on the couch. And then the next thing I remember, I'm holding my head.
That's right. I remember telling you about that.
And my mom's opening the front door, and we both ask each other what happened. So I had this big gap I didn't remember at all. And I got taken to the hospital and everything. Later on, I've started to fill in some memories of what actually happened, but I don't know if I can trust them, because the memories came months after the accident. So
I have these memories of these chewing noises, just like
and
and then you go and make me laugh, you big dumb jerk.
Hey, are you sharing your potato with us again?
No, he's eating the pizza.
Oh, pizza. Oh, okay.
Yeah. What's on the pizza, Booger?
Pepperoni.
Okay, creative. All right, so Okay, let's move. Well, Cale, do you want to go into religion at all? Because I know you've got a big background in religion and how you are not religious at all now. You are a what?
I'm a non-theist.
A non-theist. Why don't you explain about that and maybe talk about your past if you want to?
Well, all right. Just a little bit. I do not believe that there is any supernatural at all. And I think that basically when we don't understand something, either we go one way or the other. We either just accept it all, or we think it's all bad. When we don't understand things, it doesn't mean that there is a supernatural explanation. There can be logical explanations, but we just don't understand them yet. And that's the best way to go about it. Why would you think that you would believe in something that you cannot prove, you cannot even find cohesive consensus on those things? Everybody has all these religious beliefs, and the problem is nobody can prove them. Ever. But we can prove science every single time. Every time it works. When it stops working, then we got a problem.
Well, when it stops working, it usually expands to cover.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is that that's the great thing about the scientific method is that it's self-correcting.
Right.
And
anyway,
religion I could go on and on, but that's good enough for me.
Well, I shouldn't. I was about to say religion isn't self-correcting, but it actually is in many ways, because the churches do eventually get more and more liberal. There was a time where there wouldn't be women pastors anywhere. Yeah. So they do open up the gates eventually.
They're slow correcting.
They self-correct at a much slower pace and drag their heels.
They just change with society.
But really, is that by design of the religion, or is that because of the people's intervention in the religion?
More rational thinkers intervening with the with the church. I mean,
Well, it's just as things become more liberal, people become more liberal, their religions become more liberal.
Because they have to get new
it.
members.
Right.
yeah,
Which makes me question, okay, if the Bible is true, why do we throw out certain parts of it when we're in a certain religion? Like Lutherans, because of the grace issue, would usually say the First Testament is basically... You can ignore a lot of that. It's all parables. It's just some stories that are supposed to help you. But the New Testament is what we really pay attention to. That's the real Bible right there. So the thing is, it's like that within a single religion, and it's like that across religions. If I found it very confusing as someone who wants to think about and find answers to things, to feel like it's mentioned in the movie Big Trouble in Little China. They talk about religion in China. They reference it. They say it's like a regular. Gosh, I'm gonna have to edit this. It's like a regular salad bar. You take a little Confucianism, a little Buddhism, and you just kind of serve yourself what your religion is going to be. And Paul, you talked a little bit about
everybody does
and Booger, you talked about how you kind of formed your own version of the religion. I think everyone does that to an extent. Unless you're really going to be fundamental and follow the source book very, very closely. Yeah. But then if you do that, you're going to be basically an outcast in today's society, because we usually are a lot more open-minded than that. And we don't think that if a woman shows her long hair in the church that we stone her to death, right? Because that's in the First Testament somewhere. And I think that... Anyway, things became a lot more clear to me, and I felt a lot more comforted by having the idea of science and skepticism being my guide, and that I didn't have to guess and worry about whether or not I was going to be accepted into heaven or hell or thrown into hell based upon what I believed, and was I choosing the right beliefs. It's like one of those things that can keep you awake at night, just wondering, am I choosing the right path? Because there are so many paths you can go down.
Yeah, I've had... people tell me, because I'm not what is it when they dunk your head in the water?
Baptized.
And so, the question is, okay,
we're all at a loss of words.
Since I know, I've been baptized.
Salad bar.
Salad bowl.
We still haven't explained that to Cam yet.
I'm going to end up in purgatory.
Or our audience, right. Yeah.
So,
remember, it's a secret to the audience. That's right.
So, to me, I'm thinking, okay, I could really believe, like, okay, I need to go get baptized just to, like, cover my bases so I don't end up in purgatory. That's what I've been told. But I don't really believe that.
Hell is religious extortion.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
That's what a lot of it is. It's just, like, scare you into believing.
Yeah, it's like, you better believe this. I don't care if you want to believe this. You better, or...
At least with something like critical thinking... Basically, it's like you can believe this if you want to try getting closer to the truth. It's a little more inviting, but it's not like, oh, you're a bad person if you don't think critically. People might call you stupid on occasion, but that's a lot better than saying you'll burn in hell for eternity.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things. People who are critical thinkers are, I think, pretty nice people. I mean, you don't have to be religious.
Yeah. And that's part of the reason why
you can be good without God.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why politically I started turning around a bit from being more Republican, is it made me think that all these people I look up to, like scientists and people who are good at critical thinking and are a lot smarter than I am, how come so many of them are liberal Democrats? And that started occurring to me more and more, and I thought, if these people really are as smart as I think they are, why would they be, quote, deluded into being a liberal? And when I started investigating things more and more, I came around to the idea that, I think that their ideas are generally more correct. They're more humanist. Whereas ideas from conservatism are a little bit more religious-based and a little more discriminatory in terms of things like not giving everyone equal rights, not allowing everyone to marry who they want to, etc.
I agree.
It's all about power for society. Religion was created by man to control man. That's basically what happened.
Pretty much.
And they
just like governments.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's move on.
That's why they've been together.
Let's move on, because this isn't about just religion.
Can I throw in a quote, though, real fast?
Yes.
Because, Richard Feynman
awesome.
said, I think it's much more interesting to live not knowing than to have answers which might be wrong. I have approximate answers and possible beliefs and different degrees of uncertainty about different things, but I am not absolutely sure of anything, and there are many things I don't know anything about, such as whether it means anything to ask why we're here. I don't have to know an answer. I don't feel frightened not knowing things. By being lost in a mysterious universe without any purpose, which is the way it really is as far as I can tell.
Yeah,
That's good.
that's good.
And we'll maybe come back on religion and do a whole episode on it at some point, because I think that would be, I think we've got a lot of ideas here. Kale, you want to go to cryptozoology? I thought ghosts would be a better come
Yeah,
off
go
of this.
for it. Go for
Let's
it.
go ghosts, because, and then we'll go to cryptozoology, because they kind of go together.
Okay.
Ghosts, yeah, so, woo, that people die and they become ghosts or whatever. What do you guys think on that?
This is another skeptical issue
yeah.
versus religion. Is there an afterlife?
Exactly.
Well, I my thoughts on ghosts is that they're not necessarily. I believe that there's ghosts, and I don't really see it as you die and then you end up being this haunting, like paranormal activity and stuff. But I do believe it's more in my head that we have this electrical energy of our mind going and our body and stuff, and going through doing the same thing every day. Like if I get up and I'm going to the bathroom over there, back and forth every day, that my energy is part of this area, and so that's when, like, if I see to see a ghost it's kind of like an echo, not necessarily a conscious entity.
Yeah.
Because there was a time.
Oh my god! Is that a ghost? Dude, Booger, what are you doing?
Oh, if he's not alive anymore, we'll be visited by the ghost of Booger.
If there are ghosts, I think that they would. That's basically what it would be: is negative or positive energy.
Yeah, because when I was little, I
over
still
from
remember
somebody doing something.
For a long time when we first moved into our house. Get your hands out of your pants, Booger!
What?
There are gerbils in the microphone.
I don't know what he's doing.
What the hell did you just? All I heard was pants booger.
That's all you need to know.
I need to know. Stay tuned on the recap.
That was the sound of somebody pantsing Booger.
All right, so
when I was little and we first moved into a house, my mom and dad are still at. I was 5. My brother and I, our room was upstairs, and I remember waking up and I would see this old lady standing at our doorway in this purple dress, and I could still kind of picture her and stuff. And for nights and nights and nights, I would see this. And then there was one time, this was maybe 5 years ago, I was joking and said, "Oh yeah, I used to see the old lady," and my mom said, "Oh, in the purple dress." And she says, "Oh, I've seen that too." So it's like, and I never talked to her about it. So I don't know if it was an energy of a lady that used to live there, because the upstairs of my parents' house used to be another apartment. So it was 2 separate houses. So I don't know, but I still.
Why would ghosts have clothes? Why would ghosts have clothes? I mean,
or time travelers.
Yeah, it's just anybody. It seems like that if there's going to be ghosts, then they are energy. Why are they wearing clothes? Why does everybody always see ghosts with clothes? It's because they're imagining them. It's hallucinations.
Actually, there is an explanation for that, Gil.
Okay, tell me.
Go Booger.
Okay. Ghosts have I actually asked the same question, because not only why do they have clothes, but why do they always have clothes of certain time periods? It's because ghosts, although are supposed to be energy, they're energies of memories, as specifically memories of those particular spirits. And those spirits are remembering when they were on Earth and what they looked like. Now, whether they wore clothes, whether they wore sheets, whether they wore whatever, that's what they remember.
Why are you beatboxing?
Beatboxing?
It's crackling a little.
Yeah, you get a little crackling oat brand in there.
Oh, I think, okay, because I was trying something new holding the camera. Obviously, that didn't work. All right, let's try this.
Yeah.
That sounds a bit better.
Yeah,
there you go.
Okay, so what do you have to say about that, Kale? It's their memory of their clothes.
Oh, that's just as good an explanation as anything. I think what you try to do is look at what is the most realistic answer. And since we know that people hallucinate, we know that we can be influenced to think things, that is more likely that we are imagining these things than there's actually something there.
There's a really good. I know I keep going to Robot Chicken, but he makes some really good.
There's a banana leaf instead of an iguana.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. There's a really good Robot Chicken where this guy wakes up and there's a ghost in a chair next to his bed. He's like, "Oh my god!" And the ghost is just sitting there. He's like, "Oh my god!" He's hiding. He looks at the ghost, and he keeps getting scared. He's like, "What do you want from me? What do you want?" And the ghost just looks up and goes, "We're not all assholes, you know."
I got an explanation for why the ghosts wear clothes. Is because when somebody sees a ghost, Luke does not want to see a 900-year-old Yoda dick hanging between his legs.
That's the best explanation I have heard of.
Wow.
That totally makes sense
Oh my
to me.
god, 900-year-old Yoda dick.
Wow.
You know, when he bounces and flips and jumps
Yeah.
around so fast,
Nobody
if they
wants to
slow
see
that
that.
down, it's because he's riding his own
Nobody
pogo
wants to
stick.
see that.
That's what's going on.
Right? You got Pogo stick.
Yoda pogo.
Wait.
Oh, I got
Hey,
your
we're
toy.
at an hour.
Alright.
Okay.
Well, no, let's keep going. This is good. Okay, so,
Wow.
but okay,
Well,
but I don't believe in ghosts anymore.
Okay.
I
I
used
think
to.
we're going to take turns shooting this down.
I used to believe in ghosts. I mean, even like a few years ago, I started watching Ghost Hunters because I love the idea of ghost hunters. I thought they were a very good show because they seemed very skeptical while they were looking for things, and they seemed to find things that were pretty freaky. I still watch it because I'm into the show and I enjoy it, but I don't believe they're really finding anything now. And my wife stopped watching it because it's really bad. I mean, it's just like, oh my god, what was that? Oh, it was a noise. It sounded like someone talking,
it's
but
an anomaly hunting.
yeah, exactly. It's like it sounded like corduroy pants rubbing against each other, and they're hearing like.
Well, they got caught in the Halloween episode as being fake.
Yeah, I know, and that's part of it too. And the
Well,
thing
it's
is,
pareidolia there, the audio version, of
Right.
it, where it's the same thing as playing a record backwards. Some people will hear weird satanic lyrics,
Yeah.
but what's interesting about experiments done to test pareidolia is that when people listen to a record played backwards the first time, they'll hear a certain passage, and when asked what did you hear, they'll usually have, I didn't hear much of anything, or I heard this particular thing. However, if you seed someone by saying, you're going to hear them say, 666, Satan is awesome.
right.
If you seed them with
Yeah.
that, then everyone hears it, and that's what they...
On Ghost Hunters happens
We've got
all the
pattern
time.
recognition. We're
Yeah.
always looking for patterns.
Patterns,
That's
exactly.
what our
Right.
brains do.
Ghost on Ghost Hunters, they do it all the time. Their most evidence is audio, and it's audio. What it's called EP.
EVP.
EVP,
Electronic
voice phenomenon, because
Right.
they don't hear it at the time. That's because our brain, if your pants rub together against something, or our brain says that's not a voice or anything. But then you play it back and hear it over and over again. It's like, oh, I thought I heard it say something.
Well, another aspect of that, too, is that a recorder doesn't discriminate. Where
Yes,
in our day-to-day
exactly,
lives,
yes.
we filter out all sorts of noises around us. So
Yeah.
unless we're, like, asleep and afraid and thinking we're going to see ghosts in the middle of the night, the water heater might turn on, and we hear weird crackling and stuff, and we go, someone's stepping down the hallway. But that's the one time of the day when you might not be filtering that out because it gets
Yeah.
your attention because
Yeah.
you're just laying in bed at the time.
I want to give it a great example. There's a show, and I think it's called Fact or it's not
Fiction,
Fact or
Fact or
Fiction. It's with two groups, and they go out and they look
Fact
for
or faked?
Fact or Faked. Yes, there was one episode, and it's a lot like the other ones, but this one episode was astounding. It was fantastic. What they did was they went and they have this picture of this. It looks like a light shines across, and it looks like there's a ghost of a man or a mummy there, and it looks very real. So they go to this place, they try everything, and it looks very real. They find out what it is. It's an old sewing machine or something that has a pattern on it, and they shine a light in a certain way, and it looks just like it. But once you see that's what it is, you can't see the face anymore. It's gone. It is the craziest thing, and that is that's exactly what it is. We see faces, we hear voices where there is none, and then we say, well, it's got to be a person, and since it wasn't a real person, it must be a dead person.
Right.
Because we don't know where they are, so that must be where they are.
Joey, do you remember the time that we were at the lunch shelter in Longdon and we were in our 20s?
Oh my god, yes!
And we were looking across the dark field and we just saw these white wisps moving around and we're going, what the
like
heck?
we thought they were ghosts or
I
something.
was just, I wasn't necessarily going, they're ghosts, but I didn't know
I thought
what the
they
heck
were
was going on.
because it didn't look right.
Yeah.
And what it was the sprinklers were on, but the lights, the big
Right.
halogen lights were reflecting off in such a way that they didn't look like anything
and
we've
what
seen
really
before.
did it is we couldn't hear the sprinklers.
Right, 'cause
we
we were
just
further away.
assumed we were close enough that if it had been something like that, we'd hear it.
Our
We
brain couldn't find what it was.
Yeah. And who was anyone else there at the time? Or I think it happened more than once at Eddie's house, where his back door just slammed. In the house
Yeah. We talked about that.
And we found out it was just kind of like wind currents moving through the house that would cause it to slam on occasion. But it's when it happens, it makes you go, "Oh my gosh!"
If you don't, that's just it. If you don't have the experience or the knowledge to figure something out, you use your experience and knowledge to put in what you know. And what do we know? We know what people look like. We know what they sound like, and we just say, "Well, their
doors don't shut themselves."
Right, exactly. So maybe there's a person here that's not really here.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of in a way it's a form of God of the gaps argument, I think, because that's one thing that religion uses a lot. You know, like when creationists say there's a gap in the evolution chain, it's like, well, since science can't explain this little aspect of evolution, God did it, right? God developed a working eyeball, and evolution couldn't prove that it formed somehow. God developed wings and feathers to enable flight, but as time goes along, usually science fills in those gaps because we make new discoveries as we go. But I think we play a little bit of God of the gaps with our own experiences with things like that. You know,
Booger, stop moving the camera!
Like we could have had that door slam and not investigate it because we were all too freaked out, and we just would have been telling people all along that Eddie's house was haunted.
Yeah.
And that he had ghosts. And maybe one of us would have seen something one time just because we're in that state of mind. We catch a glimpse of something and we think, oh my gosh, that was a ghost.
And the more you jump to that, the more you're used to jumping to that, and then you come up with more ideas.
But we were more inquisitive and decided to study it, and instead of having this ghost of the gaps that we created, we had this explanation that, we realized that if certain doors in the house were open and you get just the right air current, that door slams. Just because of the pressure.
I think this moves very well into cryptozoology, which, by the way, is a real it's a real area of science. We do find animals that were not existing before that do exist. But there are extremists who look for things like the Chupacabra, or also like, what else is there?
Nessie?
Bigfoot.
Loch Ness.
Do it like you did before. That was cool.
Loch Ness.
Yes, and also Loch Ness, and also...
Wait, I'm kind of hungry. Bigfoot. Sizzler.
I said Bigfoot.
You have to be. I'm sorry for all our youngsters out there. You have to be kind of old to get that one.
Seafood, salad.
You know, I want to just jump into it and say that I've seen Bigfoot in person.
Really?
Yeah, it was like, you know,
went to the
it
set?
was all blue with the big wheels and stuff, and he was jumping over.
Bigfoot and the muscle machines, the big, bad, dirty, and mean. Wow. Damn.
Actually, if you guys remember, whenever we did one of our paranormal videos, we actually saw him over at the Arboretum.
You know, I'm glad you bring that up because I should get the restoration of that out by the time we publish this.
So if any of you guys want to see what we thought about paranormal activity...
we call it psychology.
We could parapsychology. And when we were in high school, we'll put it up. We'll put the link. Check us out. We were movie makers.
Yeah. I know.
We still are.
We kept our pants on.
You're better movie makers.
So Bigfoot,
Sasquatch,
all that stuff.
No.
What do you guys think about that?
No.
Well, I mean, there could be something out there.
bearded
But I
lady.
think
The one that you
Napkin fish.
could totally find is the
Bigfoot.
Tasmanian tiger, and they cannot find it.
That's
they
true.
don't even catch it. So if they can't find something that was real,
Yeah, I know.
you know, they never find Bigfoot. They never find.
Right.
The creatures they find
Yeah.
are small. They're always little new creatures that they find all the time. They're
Have
microorganisms.
you ever seen a bald
Or
bear?
they're oceanic.
A bald bear
Tuki.
looks really strange, and it doesn't look like a bear. So people always think, "Oh, that's a chupacabra," but it's a bald bear.
Goat boy.
I think it's a megalodon or no. Is
The
that right?
shark?
Yeah, there's one fish that was thought extinct, and then some fishermen found it. I
Oh.
think it was in the 1950s.
Yeah,
But
The
it-
narwhal?
No, it wasn't that.
I know
Well,
which
the
one
whole
you're
giant
talking-
squid.
I can see it. I
The
can
giant
see it.
squid was
I don't
one
know
they
if I have
found.
the right name.
They found the giant squid. They
Megalodon
proved
sounds
it.
prehistoric.
But you get to ones like they have whole shows around, like hunting Bigfoot,
Hunting
you know,
Bigfoot.
and it's
Don't
like
mess with
Bigfoot. If
Sasquatch.
a creature that big not leaving anything,
Well-
any evidence behind is pretty
Well, here's
much
the
possible.
thing. Yeah, no
Yeah,
one finds a
pretty
carcass.
ridiculous.
No one finds.
Not even a hair.
They don't see like Bigfoot
no
dumps
DNA.
everywhere.
Yeah.
But the other thing too is for it to be a
Where's his ass?
sustaining. For
Where's
it to
his
be
poop? They gotta find
Unless
him.
it's some creature that can crossbreed with some other thing and still produce a Bigfoot, there has to be
Be a
certain
society,
population.
right?
Yeah.
So, you know, to sustain the Bigfoot population for so long, there have to be probably hundreds of them. At least, you know, zoologists estimate this kind of thing. So, out of hundreds of them being around, are we never going to find their feces laying around? Are we never going to find a carcass?
Yeah.
Sometimes people find, you know, pieces of hair or fur or whatever, and they have them analyzed.
And it's
and
like
you'll
nothing
find-
we've ever seen.
You'll find some fringe, you know, people that may not do the DNA testing
Yeah.
right, and they gloss over the fact that it's like a match for human hair or a match for fox hair or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it is, again, anomaly hunting and cherry picking. They cherry pick the data they want to believe in.
Yeah.
And there's, you know, looking for anomalies.
And all
like,
those
oh, we
people
found this
making
little
Bigfoot footprints.
Yeah.
You know, they
Well,
find so
also
many people
hoaxes.
feeding into it.
hoaxes too, yeah, because the most famous Loch
Crop
Ness
circles.
photo
Yeah.
was admitted to be a hoax.
Yeah.
By the
Oh yeah, the crop circle one. That's a big one. I mean, people were like, "How could that possibly exist? There's no human who could possibly
I find
do that."
that
And then when those
hilarious that
guys
people
showed
with
that they could
plywood-
do it.
I know
Yeah.
it's so
With
simple.
rope and plywood.
Rope
Yeah.
and plywood, man.
That's all they needed. And when they came out and said, "This is how we're doing it," they're like, "No, we don't believe
Yeah,
you.
and
then
We'll
just
show
do it.
you."
They
And they
showed
did it.
yeah.
Oh my god.
Just to explain the rope thing, you know, people would say, "How can there be such precise circles made?" And it's just, you know, you stretch out a rope on a pinion, and you just follow it, and that gives you the perfect, you know,
Yeah,
the
it'll be
circle and
perfect.
right, exactly.
When I was a kid, let me say, when I was in high school, I was so believing in aliens. Oh man, I read Communion by Whitley Strieber and saw the movie, which was weird. We'll talk about some other time, butt probes and all. But yeah, I thought aliens were real. I thought they were abducting people. I had this little like bump behind my ear. I was like, "Oh my god, it's an implant!" I still have it. It's just a mole. But I was at the time. I was like, "Oh my god!" And part of me wanted to be abducted. I was like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna be abducted. I don't want to be
gonna
abducted.
get butt probed.
Butt probed. Oh, but I get spaceship." You know.
That's why we called you Mulder Shamel.
No, you didn't. You called me knee high. No wait,
What the hell?
knee high. Oh, that was before your time.
Or was it
wasn't
Joey Mulder? I
Joey
guess.
Mulder.
Yes.
So what about you guys with aliens, huh?
I believe in aliens.
Oh, we got a believer.
Yes.
Hallelujah.
Well,
Because there's no.
I believe in aliens.
I don't.
Let me
I don't-
rephrase. Aliens coming to Earth and abducting us.
no.
Sure.
Oh, still got sure.
I look at it this way: as the Star
see
Trek
no
Next
compelling
Generation
evidence.
approach is when they went to a different planet, they would hide and they wouldn't want to say that they were there and stuff. So why wouldn't aliens come and
The Prime Directive?
look at us?
Yeah.
I don't know if they're here now.
I think
let me
They could be there. I mean,
challenge-
they could be millions of years ago.
Let me challenge my good friend Paul here on a couple
Sure.
of things. I just want to bring up, just like Kale said about, you know, could have mistaken memories about things like ghosts, and also, you know, people can foul up when they remember things like alien abductions. I usually try to employ Occam's razor there, which is let's go with the assumption, or let's go with the theory that requires the fewest assumptions and the smallest assumptions. So when it comes to something like an alien abduction, which is more likely that people with fallible minds and memories misidentified things or dreamt or hallucinated an experience, or we have masses of pretty much undetected spaceships visiting us with visitors from another planet, and they just want to pick us up. They don't want to say hello. They don't want to. Why are they being so secretive in the first place if they traveled who knows how many light years to come here? So which one of those two theories makes the fewest broad assumptions?
Well, all right. We'll take the skepticism approach to this. Why? What says that they're not here?
Okay, that is the if you're trying to prove something, though, the impetus of proof is on you proving it, not on someone disproving you. It would be like saying,
But
to
that's what
somebody,
skeptics do. They make you have to disprove everything.
No,
So
we're
cherry-
basically
cherry-
demanding
cherry-
evidence from you. I'm saying if you want to tell me that aliens are visiting us, please give me the evidence.
But give me evidence that they're not.
But that's not, the impetus is not on me because I'm not the one making a broad claim. So
but that's what skeptics do.
But if you
I'm being a skeptic.
If you make extraordinary claims, you need to show me extraordinary evidence to back it up.
I'm sorry, isn't that who's impotent?
Oh, I'm sorry.
But no, wait, this is an interesting point because I see where he's coming from because I used to think that way. I didn't like skeptics at one point. I thought skeptics are just people who don't want to believe things they can't see or hear or whatever. But I see where he's coming from, but I can see it from both angles because what you're saying is, well, a skeptic wants proof, so he's saying back to you, well, prove it's not. But I also see what he's saying, which is they're not equal though. They're not the same
Here's
thing.
An example when it comes to the 9/11 conspiracies. A lot of people will say things like, prove to me that it was the airplane that hit the Pentagon, and also prove to me that it wasn't a controlled demolition of the 2 towers of the World Trade Center. But the thing is that it's not for us to prove that it wasn't a controlled demolition. Basically, if someone says it's a controlled demolition, show us video of someone taking the months required to install the explosives. Show us somebody's plans of where to structurally take out the tower and where the explosives are supposed to be done. Tell us about the crew of hundreds of people that installed the explosives.
A skeptic just makes claims.
No, the burden of proof is on the person trying to prove something.
Well, wait, a skeptic just makes claims?
No, usually the skeptics are demanding proof.
That's the problem.
Making claims.
People using critical thinking are using good. Skeptics can fit into the category you're saying. Yeah. And those people, yes, they can say what you're saying, but they're not using critical thinking.
And that's why I think that we have to differentiate, like with the cult thing. Because even for me, for a long time, the word skeptic was not somebody I liked. I didn't like skeptics. I didn't like the idea of skepticism, but I love the idea of critical thinking. And I think that generally we have to look at the word skeptic because it's been adopted as critical thinking.
Name in a way.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, maybe. Paul, when you were talking about skeptics, were you talking about people who don't believe in abductions? Is that what you're saying?
I'm just thinking like skeptics that are.
Let's change the word.
Wackos.
Let's change the word. Let's change the word.
No, I was interpreting it to mean the people who don't believe in alien abductions are skeptics. So, okay.
Absence of proof is not proof. That's what I've been trying to say.
You can't say
I
it's
keep
like
forgetting
prove to me that the world is not on the back of a giant invisible tortoise that you can't touch or feel.
Well, some satellite photos would be pretty easy.
Well, no, the satellites just go right through it because it's invisible.
Oh, okay. So because you can't see or feel. Yeah. Right. Well, in the book we hinted at the demon haunted world. Carl Sagan illustrates someone shows a skeptic their garage and says, there's an invisible fire-breathing dragon in my garage. Now prove to me that it's not there. Well, if it's invisible, then it's basically a moving goalpost. You know, whatever you say, they can just say, well, I don't feel any heat from the flames. Oh, the flames don't produce heat.
It's intangible.
Yeah.
Right. So there's always going to be a moving goalpost, no matter how much evidence you come up with that this invisible fire-breathing dragon doesn't exist. People always say that's not good enough because it's this or that.
What I'm thinking more is like conspiracy theorists.
Yeah.
More than how we're defining.
But skeptic. I think to prove a conspiracy, you have to show some conspirators, right? And that's what usually is missing from all these theories. Yeah. And most conspiracies would probably crumble under their own weight because, again, like talk about the World Trade Center. If it were a controlled demolition. Do you know how long it takes to rig a building with explosives to bring it down?
Yeah, totally.
It takes a very long time, and it's a very coordinated effort. There are only a few known people in the world that have the expertise to do it. Yeah. So why wouldn't one of these people ever come forward? Were they all killed off and then their families silenced because they were paid off? And every conspiracy like that has this ripple effect.
Those guys are still around and still exploding ones in Vegas.
Okay.
So they're still around.
That's like the conspiracy
they brought down the demons.
They never landed on the moon.
Both.
Yeah.
Well, if we never landed on the moon...
Yeah, that's a good one.
The Russians... We're in a race to the Russians to get to the moon. Well, if we didn't do it, the Russians would have been all over it.
Oh, they totally.
Saying-
Right.
The Russians,
That's the
Russians
right.
have been
When
to the
there's-
moon?
When there's a vested effort by someone, it's
Yeah,
definitely
that was,
hard to hide a
Superman
conspiracy. You know how hard it is. Okay, forgive my French here, but
The Russians
if
did go to the moon in Superman 2. That was a very...
for those of
very
us
good.
alive in the 90s, if
Which
the
would be all of
president
us.
couldn't hide a blowjob in the Oval Office, how do you hide the demolition of the World Trade Center? Right?
There you go.
So
Yeah.
Got a point there.
That's a good one.
That was just two people involved.
exactly.
And I think a lot
And
of
a cigar.
conspiracy and everything comes down to the idea that, and this is going back to a lot of our rambles that we've had so far, storytelling in the mind, is that we want there to be a story. We want there to be a reason. We want there to be connections between everything. And sometimes in life, things just happen for reasons either beyond our understanding because they're too technological, too chaotic, or they just don't really have any connections. And so we try to put some in there. It's what's better, to believe there's this whole conspiracy about the buildings that's connected to all the governments, or there's just these 19 guys who are part of this group that just got lucky.
Well, I think
Not
that
in a-
it's not like the president, right? But there's a lot of
Well, supposedly they're getting lucky now if their religion was correct, right?
well, that's
Not
true.
if all those virgins are nerds and geeks from
Yeah.
like...
Yeah.
I
Hey,
know.
there's another reason why not to be a virgin,
Yeah.
man, because you don't want to be up there being
Yeah.
buggered
That's
by
true.
those.
You got a whole bunch of terrorists waiting for you. Oh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
don't
you know-
be a virgin.
I do want to say with the aliens and alien abductions is, I believe that there could be alien abductions going on, because I think it's like if we went out into space, it's the human race went out into space and there was a planet that had like a group that was not as smart or technology advanced, whatever, as us. I don't know if we would go straight to them and say, "Hey, everybody, we're here to be with you." It may be covert. We're going to go in there and analyze them, and we're going to maybe take some of their stuff,
And honestly...
butt probe a few things.
Yeah. And
Check out
But
the
why do you
data.
have to butt probe everybody? Those are bad scientists if they have to keep doing the same damn experiments every time.
Maybe that's what they're into, and they're like the
Yeah.
bad scientists, and they're just totally getting away with it.
Yeah, they
or
could
maybe
be
it's like on
single
South
man.
Park.
I'm into that.
Maybe it's on South
Wait,
Park
what?
where it was like, hey, well, what about the cows you killed and turned inside out? Oh, that was Bob's fault. Yeah, sorry, my bad. Didn't mean that was an accident. But no.
Well,
what?
there are
Go
also a lot of stories like in Roswell is supposedly
Yeah.
a UFO crash. Well, it's like, okay, so these aliens are so awesome that they circumnavigate the vastness of space. Then they come to Earth to crash in a desert.
Well,
doesn't make much sense.
Here's the thing. I think if there is anything, and like I said, I'm on the fringe of skepticism because I really would love for all this to be true, but I kind of need more evidence and proof. But if in my head, if anything like aliens or ghosts or anything are out there, I think it's like what we talked about the other week, which was where ants see us, how they see us, and how we would see some creature above us. Like ants don't see humans walking around. There's just a force there, or they see things that don't make sense in their ant world that is, different. And if they could think like us, they might think ghosts or aliens, but it's just us. So maybe there's these creatures, interdimensional creatures, or maybe they're here and we just don't know how to perceive them, that are causing these things we can't understand. That's about as far as I can get. I think that we don't have the ability to put any sort of story around what might really be going on. If they can do this stuff to us, they've got to be so far beyond us, coming into houses, taking people, doing butt probes,
I hear, if you get training, alien proctology is a really hot area right now. So
But you gotta-
go to University of Phoenix and take your little proctology course.
Proctology course.
Proctology.
Yes.
But no, the other thing is also, how do we know anything exists? It's from our experience. And if we don't get it directly from our experience, we have to get it from somebody else's experience. And if something can't be repeatable, if something can't be shown over and over again, that's what we call evidence. So then it comes down to belief. And so like Paul says, he believes it could be possible, but notice Paul isn't saying it is possible.
Right.
This is what's happening. Because I think Paul is on another level also where he is skeptical, but he believes from what he's heard, correct, that you think
Well-
it could be possible based
Well,
on...
it could.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, like, I'm not, by challenging your belief, I'm basically saying I'm not ready to jump aboard that belief without some more solid evidence.
I would like. I'm not saying I visited aliens or anything,
Right.
but
But I
guess
no
I'm more the
problem
type
if
of
you
person
did.
though where I'm open to where things could happen, because I always think of In Contact when she said, what is it? What did she say? Someone asked her if they were the only people in the universe or something like that, and she said, like, I hope not, because it's an awful lot of wasted space.
Right.
That you do it.
Joey's poking himself again.
We shouldn't have a video up because I'm just messing with Booger the whole time.
I know. You were doing the little, like, hamster leap thing for a little while. So, well, we're well past an hour. I think we definitely are.
Woohoo! We're well past an hour. Woohoo! So let's end with this. How do you think skepticism is being seen in the world today? And good, bad, or there more skeptics?
Much better light than it has ever been, I think.
Critical thinking, yeah. What do you think, Darryl?
We actually didn't even really bring up James Randi or the JF.
Yeah.
Well, what is that real quick? Because I think that has a lot to do with what we've been talking about.
The James Randi Educational Foundation was set up to support critical thinking, and they also have a $1 million challenge, which has been standing up for decades now.
A prize.
A prize where, under controlled circumstances, if someone can beat chance by a predetermined margin,
supernatural,
doing anything, any aspect of parapsychology, fortune telling, etc., etc. Fortune telling, probably not so much, because you can't really do that in a controlled. But like reading cards, having remote vision,
ESP.
things like that, ESP, telekinesis, all of those. There are a lot of people out there that believe they have the power, but then once they're under these controlled circumstances, they simply cannot perform, and they'll say maybe it's
better
off
than
day
chance.
So the thing is, it's one of those challenges that's meaningful, because although a lot of people have taken the challenge, and people, not just charlatans, because usually charlatans,
true believers have tried to take the test,
and I think generally charlatans know they're a fraud and they won't do it. So we're talking about people who are legitimately honest in saying that they have these powers.
Yeah.
But then under controlled circumstances, they can't get themselves to perform, which basically indicates that they don't have the powers.
And are impotent.
It's the moving goalpost.
It sucks that
of,
you can't perform.
oh, because we're in a laboratory environment,
Yeah.
my powers suddenly don't work. Yeah. Right?
It sucks.
But I think it's important to look at that, because
fluff
the $1 million challenge, it's a lot of money that people could claim if they can simply do their supernatural gift.
That'd be a bad name for porn star.
Yeah, bad name for porn star. Morality, the porn star.
Not her again.
Episode 1, memories.
We're gonna have to make
The
a comic
Foundlings.
of that. That's just too good.
Morality, the porn. Oh, see, we're off on we're off the rails, and you're still going strong.
Yeah, you're still trying
Something
to go.
serious.
And we're long gone.
What would we do without you,
Our
Darryl?
minds are
I
gone.
don't know. Probably have a good podcast.
No.
Hey, whoa.
No, you keep us straight.
man.
You keep us straight, because we don't want to be gay around you.
One look at me and you're like, I'm not going there.
Okay, I think we're
All
done for
right,
today. We're going to
that's-
stop talking about what we
yeah.
might do next week or might not, because we might end up
don't
with
know.
this. We don't know. We might end, this came out of nowhere. It was
We're on the fly, baby.
I liked it.
Oh my god!
This,
right.
this more so than the Star Wars was in my wheelhouse, so maybe that's why I'm feeling it.
I don't wanna
you're
be,
feeling it.
I don't want to
I'm
be in your
feeling it
wheelhouse.
too.
So we want to thank everyone who's been listening to our podcast. We want to say, hey, talk to us on Facebook, send us comments, let us know what you think about this, and we will respond to you, because we're just cool that way.
Yeah, you can email us at show@iamrambling.com.
Not like all those other podcasters.
No. So anyway, I think that's it for this week. I'm Joey Shamel. You can find me at
You are?
.com.
He is literally rambling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
.me.
Okay, IamRambling.com. Somebody go.
And I'm Darryl. You can find me at Jors.com. That's my last name, Giors.
Well,
I'm Cale Anderson. You can find me at romsrants.blogspot.com.
And I'm Paul Hottinger, and you can find me at heyitspaul.com.
And this is Robert Booger Magallanes. You can find me at, man, I had so much to say, I just didn't have anywhere enough time, so I let everybody else talk.com.
dude, that sucks. You need a new web address.
Yeah,
All right, everybody, see you next week.
Email addresses.
Oh, our email addresses. We have email addresses, yes?
So we will.
we
Yes,
will.
we will by the time.
Our
If
first-
you're listening to this, God, I hope it's working.
Okay, so first names at IamRambling.com, correct?
So
Right.
Joey,
Yes.
Paul, Cale,
Except for me,
Darryl.
mine's Booger, right?
It's Booger.
Okay.
Booger. Yeah.
So email us and like for me if you want to talk to me about Catholic foreskins, perfect.
Should we have a general purpose?
We have one. Show at
He just said that. I'm
IamRambling.com.
glad you're
I'm
listening.
so bad at that. I missed everything.
Way
you
to keep
said.
track there,
So,
Darryl.
from Incoherent Rambling, we like to say have a good week. We'll see you next time, and
Keep on rambling.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Darryl.
Potato!
Thanks for listening. You can now stop screaming at the open air. Listeners should put their minds back in their upright positions and resume traditional thinking. Find us on IamRambling.com for access to all of our weekly ramblings, show notes, general discussions, and any projects from Incoherent Ramblings. Like us on Facebook and rate us on iTunes. So long, and thanks for all the fish.